Einen wunderschönen guten Tag und herzlich willkommen zu einem neuen und voraussichtlich recht kurzen Let's Play. Ich lasse mich da selber mal überraschen. Wir spielen auf jeden Fall The Beginner's Guide. Das ist von dem gleichen Menschen, der The Stanley Parable geschrieben oder programmiert, erstellt, kreiert hat, wie auch immer man das nennen möchte. Und ich bin sehr, sehr gespannt, weil Stanley Parable mochte ich sehr, sehr gern und es war bei Stanley Parable schon so der Fall, dass man halt nicht viel über das Spiel sagen konnte, wie es so ist, ohne halt massiv was zu verraten oder ohne jemandem den Spielspaß zu nehmen. Und das soll hier angeblich ähnlich sein, wobei es hier auch mehr Richtung Interactive Movie geht. Also es ist auf jeden Fall ein bisschen anders als Stanley Parable, aber ich würde sagen, wir lassen uns einfach mal überraschen. Audio ist komplett auf Englisch, also es gibt einen englischen Erzähler. Ich habe euch mal die deutschen Untertitel dazu eingeschaltet. Und ich würde sagen, ich habe auch noch keine Ahnung, was mich hier groß erwartet. Darum starten wir einfach mal. Bitte Audio einschalten. Ja, habe ich. Danke. Steuerung, WASD und linke Maustaste. Das schaffe ich gerade noch so, glaube ich.
Hi there. Thank you very much for playing The Beginner's Guide. My name is Davey Reedon. I wrote The Stanley Parable, and while that game tells a pretty absurd story, today I'm going to tell you about a series of events that happened between 2008 and 2011. We're going to look at the games made by a friend of mine named Coda. Now, these games mean a lot to me. I met Coda in early 2009 at a time when I was really struggling with some personal stuff, and his work pointed me in a very powerful direction. I found it to be a good reference point for the kinds of creative works that I wanted to make. So just to start you off, this is, I think, the first game he ever made. It's a level for Counter-Strike. You can walk around here, by the way. And mostly it's just Coda learning the basics of building a 3D environment. But what I like is that even though he starts from the simple aesthetic of a desert town, he then scatters these colorful abstract blobs and impossible floating crates around the level. And of course, it destroys the illusion that this actually is a desert town, and instead this level becomes a kind of calling card from its creator. It's like a reminder that this video game was constructed by a real person. And it kind of makes you wonder, what was going through his head as he was building this? This is what I like about all of Coda's games. I mean, not that they're all fascinating as games, but that they are all going to give us access to their creator. I want us to see past the games themselves. I want to get to know who this human being really is. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. So, it's 2008, Coda starts making these games, and he never releases any of them. He doesn't put them onto the internet, he just makes them and then immediately abandons them, and they sit on his computer forever. And I think he really understood this image of himself as a recluse. At one point, he jokingly renamed his computer's recycling bin to Important Games Folder. So, this was just how he worked. He tended to crank them out one after the other without even really pausing to try to understand what he had just made, until suddenly one day, he just stopped. In 2011, that was it. He made his last game, and then he hasn't made another one since. And that's why I've taken this opportunity to gather all of his work together, is because I find his games powerful and interesting, and I'd like this collection to reach him, to maybe encourage him to start creating again. And if the people like you who play this also happen to find his work interesting, then I'm sure it'll just send that much stronger of a message of encouragement to Coda. So thanks for joining me on this. If you have a particular interpretation that I haven't mentioned here, or if you just need to get in touch, you can email me at daveyWreden@gmail.com. Okay, that's about it for introduction. Let's take a look at Coda's first proper game. As each game is loading, I'll show you the date that it was completed. This first one was made in November 2008.
Okay, also wenn ich das richtig verstanden habe, spielen wir hier jetzt eine ganze Menge an Spielen wohl von Coda. Und es geht gar nicht mal so um die Spiele selbst, sondern dass wir einfach mal schauen sollen, was geht bei Coda eigentlich so ab? Oder was ging bei ihm so ab, als er in diesen, naja, wenn man das Jahr jeweils mit reinnimmt, also in diesen 4 Jahren, also 2008 bis 11, was da so um ihn vorging. Okay, ich kann schießen.
This game is called Escape from Whisper, and it's one of the more generic games you'll see from Coda.
Sollten wir zum Licht gehen? Ich bin mir nicht sicher. Was sagt es über mich aus, dass ich nicht zum Licht gehe? Die Neugier siegt dann doch. Okay. Flüstermaschine aktiv.
Security call breached. Hostile alien life form inbound.
Okay, hier ist die Tür aufgegangen.
It kind of looks like this game was abandoned mid-development. For instance, you have this gun, which you'd think would indicate that there are supposed to be monsters or enemies somewhere, but then clearly there are no enemies anywhere. You can't even reload the gun when you run out of bullets. But ultimately we don't really know. Maybe Coda thought that actually it was complete the way that it is. And I think that we should talk about his games for what they are, rather than for what they're not.
Enemy force neutralized. Begin shift evacuation.
Ah, okay, jetzt ist da aufgegangen. Kann ich... Okay, da kann ich auch hoch. Ja, irgendwie finde ich das
I
gerade...
love how you can see the bottom of the universe from this room.
The bottom of the universe. Das finde ich ein bisschen großartig. Obwohl ich hier gerade insgesamt schon ein eher wirsches Gefühl bei der ganzen Sache habe.
Apparently, this space station has a labyrinth on it. Sure, I don't know. There's really no reason for it that I've ever been able to discern, so in the interest of time, I'm just gonna skip you on past it.
Okay. Überspringen wir das Labyrinth. Ist auch ganz gut, ich hätte mich da eh total drin verlaufen.
Okay, this is the part that's interesting. The game has this narrative about the whisper machine and how it has to be turned off, and then you get to the engine room.
Hey, you there, in the engine room. You could save us all. That beam is powering the whisper machine. We could disrupt it by introducing a great enough heat signature. If your body could stop the beam. It's so much to ask, but for all of our lives, would you do it? Could you give yourself?
Okay. Also wir haben vermutlich eh keine andere Wahl, ohne dass es... Also sonst würde es wohl nicht weitergehen. So...
Let me pause here for a second. What you just experienced, stepping into the beam and then dying, is probably what Coda had initially intended when he was developing this level. But when he first compiles and plays it, something goes wrong. There's a bug somewhere. And this is what happens instead.
Okay. Wow. Okay, das ist...
The beam causes you to start floating. And this is an important moment for him. Because yes, this is technically a glitch, but Coda identifies something human about it. Like how small it makes you feel in the face of this larger chaotic system. Or this floating could be the afterlife, a peaceful place, juxtaposed against all of the hysteria that you've just had to traverse. I don't even know. I have no idea what he was thinking, but what's clear is that after making this, something lodges itself in his brain. He wants to do more of these really weird and experimental designs. So he stops work on this and moves on to a stream of tiny little games that go in all sorts of directions. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first game he made after leaving this one behind.
Okay, wir sind immer noch im November 2008 und das erinnert mich an einen sehr, sehr alten,
Yup, in this game you can only walk backwards.
sehr, sehr alten Windows-Bildschirmschoner, wollte ich sagen. Die Vergangenheit lag hinter... Wow, I can only walk backwards. Das ist so weird. Ich muss mich übrigens hart zusammenreißen, nicht Englisch zu reden, weil der Erzähler eben Englisch ist. Wenn ich hier zwischendurch mal ins Englische verfalle, nehmt's mir bitte nicht zu übel. Ich versuche es zu vermeiden. Nee, Alter, ist das...
So it's a short and relatively minimalist experiment combining motion and narrative. It is less advanced than the previous game, but actually it seems to be more focused, more complete. Code is trying to give it a unique voice rather than simply basing it on a pre-existing trope.
Warum ändert sich die Zukunft ständig? Okay. Das war doch vorher auch noch nicht hier, oder? Gott, fuckt einen das ab. Also das ist an sich total unspielbar. Aber so unter dem ganzen Hintergrund oder vor dem ganzen Hintergrund, dass man ja eigentlich nicht an sich um das Spiel kümmern soll, sondern mehr um den Menschen dahinter, finde ich das gerade doch sehr interessant. Wenn sie stehen bleibt und sich umsieht, wird alles klarer. Ich muss gerade auch so ein bisschen an... Gott, wie hieß es denn? Wenn die Zukunft immer hinter ihr liegt. Moment. Wie soll sie dann die Kraft finden, sich ihr zu stellen?
It's a short little thought, it says what it wants to say, and then it ends. Didn't need anything more than that. Which to me is why it works, because it gets out quick. Okay, next one.
Okay, noch immer November 2008. Ich komme gerade nicht auf das Spiel, an das mich das davor erinnert hat. Ist so ein total wirsches Physik-Puzzle-Ding. Ist ja auch egal. Das hier macht auf den ersten Moment einfach... ich kann vorwärts laufen, das ist schön. Macht einen creepy Horror-Slender-mäßigen Eindruck. Wobei es, glaube ich, vor Slender entstanden sein müsste. Ich bin mir gerade nicht sicher. Also vor dem Spiel. Du betrittst nun... Ich erwarte irgendeinen Jumpscare.
And that's it. Okay, the meaning of this game won't be clear just yet. Please be patient with me for a few more games and I promise you'll see what makes it interesting.
Okay.
Oftentimes, Coda would put bizarre titles like this one at the start of his games. I wish I'd known him at the time that he was making these early games. He would really only talk to me about his work as he was making it. Once he stopped work on a game, like, that was it. It was dead to him. And I don't agree with that at all, but what are you gonna do?
Okay, hier haben wir eine sehr lange Treppe. Ah Gott, ich fange an, ganz eklige Sachen hier rein zu interpretieren, wie einfach so diese grauen Hochhausblöcke stellen den Alltag dar und man quält sich hoch zum Alltag und für was? Und oh Gott. Ich befürchte, dieses Spiel wird mich irgendwann massiv fertig machen. Apropos, man quält sich hoch, ich werde immer langsamer.
Once you've been slowed to an absolute crawl, the door at the top of the stairs opens. So why, if Coda's not showing these games to anyone, why bother opening the door at all? Well, to show you, I'm modifying the game here so that when you press enter, it'll bring you back up to full speed so you can enter the door for yourself.
Okay, wir können Enter drücken, wir können, also um dann schnell weiterzulaufen, wir können aber auch langsam laufen, aber langsam wird wahrscheinlich ungefähr 10 Minuten dauern. Ja, ich drück mal Enter. When Stanley came to a set of 2 doors, he entered the one on his left. Vor allem ich stehe... Was? Was? Spiel voller Stühle, von denen einer schwebt. Warum erfüllt mich dieser Satz zutiefst mit Unbehagen?
And nice and filled with little ideas for games.
Eine Taste, die du drückst, um das Chaos zu beenden. Die Taste
Coda would
funktioniert
often
nicht.
tell me that he didn't mind if people thought of him as cold or distant. He said that he knew that he was actually a vibrant and compassionate person, but that it takes time to really see that. It can be a very slow climb to get there.
Finde ich gar nicht mal. Mal kurz die Hand hoch. Wer denkt, dass eine Taste, die du drückst, um das Chaos zu beenden, die Taste funktioniert nicht, dass das sein Leben beschreibt? Mal kurz die Hand hoch. Ich finde, mein Leben beschreibt das sehr gut. Okay. Hat farblich ein bisschen was von Portal.
Well, this is new for Coda. It's an actual puzzle. Go ahead and see if you can solve it.
Okay, kann ich den Schalter mit... Okay, ich kann auch sonst nichts weiter machen. Außer halt laufen, springen und linke Maustaste. Kann ich denn... Okay, ich kann das wieder zumachen. Ich kann mich auch ducken. Aber bringt das irgendwas? Außer dass ich hier in diesem komischen Bodennebel stehe. Ich glaube, ich werde dieses Rätsel nicht so schnell lösen, weil mir komplett der Ansatz fehlt. Ich habe nur diesen einen Schalter. Der Nebel macht nichts. Die Tür reagiert ebenfalls auf nichts, also spontan zumindest. Und den Schalter kann ich nur betätigen, wenn ich... Ah, okay.
Don't forget that solution, because we're going to see this puzzle again soon. We're going to
Okay.
see it a lot.
3 Punkte an der Wand. Ich hoffe, die Musik im Hintergrund ist nicht so laut, sodass man mich noch versteht. Aber es gibt hier nur einen Lautstärkeregler für Sprache und Musik und da ich den Erzähler nicht ganz leise drehen wollte, ist die Musik leider so laut, wie sie ist.
So
Ich
that
mag's
seems to be it, right?
von der Lichtstimmung.
You walk down a corridor, you solve the puzzle, you get to the end. Simple enough. Alright, now I'm going to modify the game again, so that when you press enter, it'll remove all of the walls from this room.
Okay, ich wette, das zieht mir gleich ein bisschen den Hut aus. Das ist nicht das, was ich sagen wollte. Aber wow! Ich wusste, dass in diesem Spiel einfach ultra viel mehr drin steckt. Es war so, Alter. What?
How about that? There was more to it than we had any way of knowing. I actually find it funny that this game comes after the Stairs game, since they essentially convey the opposite idea. So, in the Stairs game, a dull exterior concealed a rich interior. And then, in this level, a dull interior hides this fantastic outer world. Either way, I think that the point is the same, is that most of the time you don't get to know what you're missing, or even that you're missing anything. That's not your role as a player. So if your role here is not to understand, then what is it?
Gute Frage. Oh, here we are again. Ich warte immer noch auf einen Jumpscare. Okay, du verlässt nun.
Aha. So, this, combined with the entering game from earlier, tells us that Coda believes his games are connected somehow. It could even be that the stairs game and the puzzle game are literally connected in between this and the entering game. There's a bigger picture that all of his games are meant to play a role in, some larger meaning that we won't be able to grasp until we've seen all of them. And once we have, we can step back and start to understand what exactly that bigger picture is.
Wir springen in den März 2009. Oben geblieben ist noch keiner. When Stanley came to a set of 2 houses.
Let's talk about video game development for a second. Every video game runs on what's called an engine, which determines what the game can and cannot do. So in other words, the engine is a set of tools for game development.
Soweit so klar.
To make all of these games, Coda is using an engine called Source. Like all engines, Source has certain things that it does well, and it has certain things that it does poorly. One of the things that it does very well is boxy linear corridors. That's why so many of Coda's games are set in these large, flat, empty rooms, is just because he's working with what the engine does well. The tools available to the creator shape what kinds of creative work they're going to end up making. You might consider paying attention to the architecture in Coda's games, to notice how they seem to stem from an engine that's very good at producing linear, boxy corridors.
Im Moment will ich da rein. Ich möchte eigentlich fast erstmal die Treppe hier außen hochgehen. Wenn ich das kann. Oh, okay, da passiert nichts. Schade. Ich weiß nicht wieso und ich weiß gar nicht, ob es darauf angelegt ist, aber irgendwie hängt für mich diesem Spiel so eine permanente Creepiness an. Also irgendwie ist... es fühlt sich alles nicht richtig an. So gar nicht. So,